Mm. when you're Hello, this is Jennifer. Hello? Hello? Are we live? Kim? Hey guys, are we live now? Ah, awesome. So we're here. Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start. Let me know if I lose you at some point, or just maybe enter in the chat box if you're not here anymore so that I know that I should stop. Welcome to the grant webinar. It is going to be very quick, I think, because I'm pretty sure you're behind now. My name is Jennifer Sutton, and I am the Senior Grant Writer for Math and Movement, and I help all of the teachers that are looking for grant funding to bring math and movement and other kinesthetic learning to their schools. So I can help you do that if you would like. The training that I have for you today is very short and very sweet, so I will go ahead and jump right into that on the PowerPoints, because I think that, like I said, I think we're a little behind. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. So here is the PowerPoint, and it's actually quite simple. The purpose of the training is just to give you an idea of what grant writing is and some resources available to you. I'm not going to teach you today how to write a grant in depth. It's going to be pretty quick and easy, or pretty quick, just an overview. And then if you want more information, I'll teach you, or I'll show you where to get that. So the first question, of course, is who gives grants? And our most common sources are the government agencies, and that can be at the federal level, the state, or the local level. And even the local level can be broken up into smaller pieces, like either your city or your village, or sometimes it's a group of cities, or your county, or a group of counties. So like the Tri-State Economic Development Council, or the Tri-County Economic Development Council, whatever makes sense in your local area. And you will know more than I would know what makes sense in your own community and what kind of partnerships you've already seen happening, to know if you have any interesting and group funding sources like that. The next one that we always look at is foundations or trusts, and then the other one is corporations, and sometimes it's a corporate foundation or trust. So it's sometimes a combination of the two. The foundations or trusts is really where we spend most of our time, and most of what I'll be talking to you today will be about foundation grant writing. So the general grant process is to find an RFP or grant guidelines. So the very first step is to identify a funding source. So I've just told you some of them. I didn't tell you how to find them. I can do that in our grant mentoring program. I give you a little information on how to do that. And then other ways of finding that out is just by going to the Foundation Center online, and they can give you some great methods for finding grant opportunities. But sometimes you're told about them through your school district, or even through a friend, or sometimes you see them in the newspaper. Once you have your grant guidelines, that is when the real adventure begins. So So that's where I started here, is at the general grant process. Starts with the RFP, which stands for Request for Proposals. Another way of saying that is RFA, which is Request for Applications. And let's see, there's another one, RFR, Request for Response. So there are different ways to call that, and you'll hear it shortened all the time, RFP, RFA, or RFR. And then the other way that we call it sometimes is just the grant guidelines or the grant submission information, things like that. Everybody calls it a little differently, all the different foundations do on their websites, but if you just keep looking up the word grant, you usually find the rules. And the rules are really important because it's what your funding source wants you to do. So if your funding source says, we want you to submit things in an X or an ABC format, then if you put it in a BAC format, they're not going to be really happy with you. So, and you want your funding source to be really happy with you. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to want to fund you. So, and to find the information they need so that they can trust that you are doing what they want you to be doing. So always try and match what you're doing to what the guidelines say, and then also to what you might have read in the guidelines about their preferences. So a key grant tip that some people just haven't ever thought of before, but is really important, is reflecting their language back to them. So if they say, we fund wellness programs, don't say back to them, we want to do a health program. Tell them you want to do a wellness program, because you want to use their words so that they recognize what you are doing is what they want to fund. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking anything about the grant guidelines and when you start writing your proposal. The first thing that we always recommend is that you contact the foundation. If there is no guidance on their website or in their grant guidelines that says, don't contact us, if there's nothing that says that, then we highly recommend you contact them. Some of the grant guidelines actually say you must contact us before you can submit a proposal, and others don't say anything. So we always recommend that you do contact them as long as the grant guidelines do not tell you not to. Because once again, if the grant guidelines tell you not to, then we highly recommend you follow the grant guidelines. That's always first and foremost. So when you contact the foundation, you just want to make sure that you know those guidelines inside and out. You've read them. You're sure that your program matches from as much as you understand their guidelines. And then when you contact them, you tell them what it is that you're trying to do and see if they agree that it fits their guidelines. And then you ask them for any way that you can meet their guidelines more closely and be able to submit a proposal to them. And they'll either be really enthusiastic, or they won't be, or they might just be somewhat non-committal and say, of course, you can submit a proposal, use our online process, but at least you've made that first contact and made sure that you are trying to be in alignment with them. The next stage of grant process is to develop the proposal. And this is where I think it gets really fun. And I hope that you can feel some of the fun in it too. And this is my biggest grant tip of all. So you listening? Are you ready? This is the best information, I think, in any grant process, and that is before you actually develop the proposal, you've already thought of your project, you've already made sure that it's in alignment with the grant guidelines. Now I want you to sit down, be completely undisturbed, close your eyes, and envision that you already have the funding and you already have the program happening in front of you. So you already got the funding to bring a family fun night to your school. So now you have your eyes closed and you're imagining you're at that family fun night. And I'm hoping that some of you in this class went to the family fun night that was happening during the Institute so that you could see what that looks like and how much fun it is and how quickly the kids learn and how excited the parents get too about the family fun night. So you sit down and you envision what you want the final product to be of your grant. So whether it's to have a family fun night come, or if it's to get materials so that you can implement programs, whatever it is, imagine that you have it. Imagine that you already got funded, You already got the check, you already made the purchase, and the program that you asked for is live in front of you right now, and you are part of it. And you are feeling the excitement that they are having, that whatever your target audience is, whether it's the kids or the parents or whatever it is, you are feeling that excitement and that joy. And once you have that feeling of success, that's when I want you to open your eyes and start writing your proposal. That is the biggest tip that I have for you for anything really, but mostly for grant development. Because once you can see the program in your mind's eye and feel it, then it is so easy to write all of the things that they ask for. They're going to ask you, what are you planning on doing? Well, you already did it in your head, so all you have to do is write out what you did. And then they'll ask you what the need for the program is. And you already see that need being met, so you say, this is what we were doing and why. And you say, the need was that we had so many kinesthetic learners that weren't being connected to through the traditional teaching practices, and now they are, because we have brought this program to our school. And when I say to imagine it and to put it all in the past tense like that, I'd actually recommend that you write, if you're new to proposal development, which I'm guessing you are because you're at this grant training, to write it all in the past tense is okay for your first draft, so that you stay in that success vibe, that this is what I did and I'm so excited about it. If you write your entire proposal in the past tense and then just go through on your first technical edit and put it all back into the future tense when you're thinking more critically rather than from this place of success, that way you're sure that you're writing it how you really want this program to happen, and what needs you're really meeting, and what outcomes you're already seeing in your mind's eye. All of that can go into the past tense for your first draft. That is my biggest tip to you of all. It's when I write like that for my grants, and when I write like that for anything, when I'm writing a letter to my I don't know, well, anyway, when I'm doing even personal things, I try and do it from that perspective. I see the outcome that I want. I write the letter in either the past tense or sometimes the current or future tense if I'm able to make that leap just out of practice. And then I go back through and make sure that it says what I wanted it to say in a more critical fashion. So do it from the heart first, and then go back through and do a technical edit. The next piece of the general grant process is submission. Woohoo! That's the fun part, when you've already done your entire proposal and it's time to submit. Now you're going to see in the grant guidelines that there are ways to submit either online or in hard copy, and then some grants like to have a little combination. So like for the Predators grant in Nashville, they want an online application first. It's very simple. They call it one page, but it's a web page, so it's actually kind of long one page. It wouldn't print out on one page, but it's a simple one page application at first, and then you print out I think it's 5-page, I'm not positive, hard copy, and you complete that and you submit that afterwards. So some have a combination of online and hard copy. And where will you find that information? How will you know what you need to do? Okay, I can't hear you, but I'm guessing that you're saying following the grant guidelines or in the RFP. That is where you'll find that information. So then the last piece, of course, is submitting on time if there's a deadline. And there are multiple ways of having deadlines. There's the rolling deadline, which we all love, and we also hate because it is without an actual deadline. Sometimes it gets put at the bottom of the list, right? But a rolling deadline means that you can submit anytime, and it'll be reviewed whenever the next time the board meets, or the board of directors, or the funder list for that particular funding source. There are different ways things get reviewed, but if it's rolling, it means that it's wide open. But even with that, there's a little caveat to that. Some foundations say we have a rolling deadline all year long, but our board only meets in July. So if you submit in September, which is perfectly legitimate, it probably won't get reviewed until the following July. So even though the deadline is rolling, it's actually pretty far away when it'll get reviewed. So just pay attention to when the board meets and what their process is for reviewing grants, and compare that to what they say about rolling deadline. So the other kinds of deadlines are postmarked deadline, which means that they say it must be postmarked by such and such a time on such and such a day, and they mean it. If it's postmarked a minute after that, they can decline to review your application. So make sure that you meet their deadlines if they have any. And also I recommend that you use a federal post office or a carrier service like UPS or the other ones whose name I can't remember right now, FedEx, there we go, that's one, that you use one of them for the actual postmark deadline, not an internal postmark machine. They prefer to have it be one of the external postmark machines. So whether it's a post office or one of the paid carriers, I would recommend that. The other kind of deadline is a receipt deadline, where they say it must be in our office by 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, the day after Thanksgiving. They never say that. It's never the day after Thanksgiving. But sometimes they're very specific and they want it to be there on a certain day at a certain time and in a certain person's box or something like that. Just make sure that you do exactly what they say, and that if you are paying to have it delivered by a certain time, that you make sure you get that little slip that says that you have committed to that, with FedEx or even the Postal Service or whatever. Make sure that you have your little slip so that if the Postal Service or the people who are delivering it don't get it there on time, you have at least confirmation that you had paid to get it there by then. And sometimes they'll accept that. And then again, just like submission, there are sometimes multiple deadlines. So you might have an online submission form by August 15th, and then you have to follow it up with the hard copy by September 1st, and that kind of thing. So just again, where are you going to find that information? Anybody? I know you're all screaming right now, grant guidelines, right? Yeah. All right. So the next thing is the critical step for schools. And since I think most of you are from schools, the most important thing is that you are in alignment with your principal and your district to make sure of what the grant process is, because you will have your own grant process at your school that will be different than what anybody else's will be, unless of course you're all in the same district and the same school, and then it'll be the same as those. So just make sure that you know what your process is and how long it'll take, so that you follow your internal grant guidelines as well as the foundation grant guidelines. So for most grants, you're going to need a bunch of things to submit. And at schools, you'll probably have somebody in your district office that can help you with this. But in general, these are the kinds of things that you'll need. You'll need your legal documents of your organization, whether it's your 501c3 letter if you're a nonprofit, or it might just be your number, your school number, and CES number for schools. So whatever it is that is for your organization, the legal documents. And sometimes those documents are board member lists or mission statement or strategic plans or school improvement plans, financial statements, annual reports. I gather all those things before I start writing my grants, just so that I have them handy and I know that I can submit them quickly and easily when I need to. So that is the documents part. The next thing is research and data. So you're going to want to find your own classroom data if you have it. And if not classroom, then school level. And if you don't have school level, then state level or county level if you can, or district level. You want to have the closest to who you're going to be calling your target audience. So if you're calling your target audience your classroom, then your classroom data is ideal. If you're calling your target audience your district, then your district level data is ideal. And you want it to be as recent as possible and as easy to understand as possible. So talking about proficiency, At levels 1, 2, or 3, you want to make sure that your grant reader knows what level 1 is and what level 2 is and what level 3 is. So, or you could just say, we had this many people test as not proficient, rather than we had this many people test at level 2, which might be not proficient, or anyway, however you want to do it to make it as clean and easy for somebody who has no idea what the official categories are. You want to put it into just basic everyday English. Project budgets. There are different kinds of project budgets, but the kind that you guys most likely will be working with is just going to have what materials you're going to be needing, maybe what kind of in-kind donations the school is willing to give, whether it's teacher time, or if it is, and they're going to pay for substitutes maybe, or maybe space, or so that you don't have to pay someplace to offer your program, things like that. So the project budget, I'm not going to go deeply into, because we could do a whole day on budget. So I just wanted to tell you that those are going to be needed, and we can do more of that in a deeper training if you want more information on that. Then the last thing that most grants need is some sort of documentation of collaboration. So funders really like when you work together. They hate the idea of paying for the same thing twice when 2 people could be doing it together instead, or 2 organizations, or 2 classrooms, or whatever. So know who your collaborators are, and if you have any MOUs, which stands for Memorandum of Understanding, or MOA, which is Memorandum of Agreement, letters of commitment, letters of support, anything that shows how you guys are playing in the same sandbox is what the foundation will want to see. Grant tips, woohoo! Let's jump right into that. So the word count tool is a really handy thing. Most online forms will want things in, will say that there's a character limit. And usually when there's a character limit, even if it doesn't say, it'll say there's a character limit of 1,000 characters. It almost always, in fact, I've never found one that this wasn't the case. It means characters with spaces and periods and commas. So it's not just the letters. You're not just counting letters. You're counting everything in that paragraph. So I'm going to show you, I think you'll be able to see it. I'm going to pull up my Word document. I think you should be able to see this. If you can't, I'm not sure how you can tell me. I'm just going to show you. You highlight the area that you want to have counted, and then you go to the lower left-hand corner, and it says words, and a word count box comes up, and it shows you how many pages you've highlighted, and in this case, it's 1. Number of words is 42. Characters, no spaces, is 222, and that's not the number we want. And there's characters with spaces, and it's 263. So it is, it shows us quick and easy how we can get to the word count, or the character count. And then another grant tip is use the Federal Post Office for postmark deadlines, like I've already said. Another grant tip, which we've already said, is to contact foundations. If it doesn't say to not contact them, then go for it. And then again, use the same vocabulary as the RFP or the grant guidelines say, so that you're reflecting back to them what they want to have done. The next most important thing is resources. Just want to show you what the resources are that we can offer you through this process. And the first one is a grant mentoring program offered by Math and Movement. If you're interested in going deeper with any of these topics, I would like for you to either give your name and email address to either Corey or Kim or whoever's there to facilitate that, or you can email me directly and say, I'd like to be on the list for the grant mentoring program for the next class that comes out. And my email address is going to be later in this presentation. It's tappingjenn, TAPPINGJENN @AOL.com, or jen@mathandmovement.com. You can send it to either one of those addresses, and I will add you to my mailing list. The grant mentoring program gives you free or very low-cost training. Sometimes there's a charge depending on which grant it is. Sometimes it's just $10, and other times it's free. So just pay attention to when we're giving out the freebies. it gives you the option for 1 hour of professional development. So it's a 1 hour grant training class. And if you do the follow-up quiz on SurveyMonkey, then I will send you a certificate of accomplishment and you get 1 hour of professional development. It also gives you language and information specific to kinesthetic learning. So tools and tips that help you use the right language to get your grant funded if that's what you're trying to get funded. And for people that attend those trainings, usually what we do is the first 10 people from each webinar get individual support as you are creating your first grant proposal. So you send it to me, I review it, I send you back tips on how to make it stronger, and we go back and forth as many times as you want to, and you hit submit. So it's actually a really great opportunity to give you more experience with grant writing in a very supported way. There are other online grant training opportunities, some free and self-directed and some with a fee and instructor-led. You can take a course for a week-long, sometimes there are 40-hour week-long grant writing courses. So what I'm giving you today is a very, very light overview. You can go very deep into grant writing, or you can do it quick and easy. The grant mentoring programs that we do are for really simple grants. So it's not hard for you to do your first or second or third grant through the grant mentoring program. Oh, so this is other support we'll provide to mentoring program participants. Oh, templates, I forgot to mention that. We usually, if we're doing a grant mentoring program for a certain funding source, we'll send you a mostly completed grant draft so that you can see the language that we would be using with that funding source, and you modify that and you can submit that. So it's usually very fast and easy for you to do your own grant through that. Again, full draft review for the first 10 people from each webinar, and those are my 2 email addresses. Upcoming grant opportunities. There's one right around the corner that one of the one of the training participants there in Tennessee just told us about, and that's the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, and it's due on the 22nd. It's incredibly simple. I've already started some draft language to send back to the person who requested it. I don't know if she's there today, listening right now, but there's only, in this particular funding stream, I think there's only $30,000 for this particular grant, and each one is up to $2,000. So it looks like they have maybe 15 grants that they can provide, unless people ask for only $1,000, and then they can do 30. But I would recommend giving it a shot. It looks like a really simple, easy first grant for anybody. Then the next one that is coming up that we'll probably be doing a grant mentoring call for is the Lowe's Toolbox for Education, due in October, I believe. And it's a really simple grant also, and kind of fun because you get to think in a different way for Lowe's, and you get to talk to your local Lowe's school or local Lowe's store and develop a relationship with them. So it's kind of a cool opportunity. And then the other one that I've already mentioned is Nashville Predators Foundation, if you're in the Nashville area. I don't know if any of you who are listening to this are from Nashville, but it's a really great program, and they're incredibly supportive of teachers. So it's kind of a must-do if you're from Nashville and you really want to get any funding. And then another one that we haven't done before, but that we've been considering, is My Macy's District Grants. It has a rolling deadline, and they do fund schools. So it looks like we are going to be probably doing a mentoring call for that later on. So if there's any interest in that, let me know, and we'll make sure we do a mentoring call. So that's it. That's my whole presentation. I wanted to be as quick and easy as possible. Let me see if I can stop screen sharing and come back. And I will thank you all and talk to you later. Bye-bye.